Welcome back, folks, to the Get a Grip on Life podcast. Today, we're doing something a little bit different. Today, what we're going to do is I'm just going to get some shit off my chest. I'm going to try to stay on one topic, and I'm going to talk to my producer about it. So it's not about the guest. It's going to be about what I think. And hey, that's okay. Ain't that right, Scotty?
Oh, yeah. I think we'll be fine.
But you know what? Before we even get to what I want to get off my chest, if they're listening to this, they probably, 1 in 10 of the people that listen to podcasts probably think they want to start a podcast, And Scott, how many times have we seen people start lighting podcasts to compete with the Get a Grip on Lighting podcast and then can't even get past 3, 4, 5 episodes?
Well, I mean, nobody gets past 10, right? 700,000 shows abandoned before episode 10.
Right. So that means that you should go where? GetAGripStudios.com, baby. Check it out. Get Scotty to produce your podcast. We're not even going to let you do one.
No, we will kick you out.
Yeah.
We will kick you out if you don't have a plan.
We don't like the bucket listers. We want them to move it to the fuck it list as soon as possible.
Right.
But for right now, you got Michael Colligan and his producer, Scott Wachter, on the Get a Grip on Life show. Hey, Scott, what's happening?
Came back from the long weekend, and that's always weird.
Ooh. Well, here's the thing, okay? So I want to talk to you about not mansplaining.
Right.
Which, I've had my 16-year-old daughter is telling me not to mansplain her now, okay? I want to tell you about womansplaining, which I think has a much longer storied history than mansplaining.
All right. Go ahead.
Because I think that women have been women-splaining men since forever. And now this mansplaining thing is as if they're looking in the mirror or something. So let me lay out my little anecdotal story for you.
All right.
First of all, what is mansplaining to you?
Well, it's I would say that there is. It comes from a chauvinist assumption that you know more than the next person over.
Right. So and also that you feel the need to inform them of this.
Yes.
Right. So it's not only the fact that, it's like the difference between judging and passing judgment. So you could sit there and think, that guy's an idiot. I should tell him that he has something on his face or whatever. Right.
Yeah.
But I'm just not going to do it because none of my business.
Right.
Right. That would be the normal reaction. Or you could say like, oh, that person's parking in the handicap spot. I don't think they're handicapped. What a dickweed.
Yeah.
Right? But you don't say anything because you don't know for sure, right? It's like, I'm not going to pass judgment. I'm just going to judge and then move on with my life because, I'm not responsible to police the parking spots or the things hanging from people's faces or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Right? So mansplaining, or in this case, what I'm going to tell you is the much more popular and resilient and longer womansplaining, which I believe has gone on much longer than mansplaining has. But perhaps it's just a common thing and we're just labeling it by gender and it happens all the time anyway, which is probably likely what it is.
I mean, we all are jerks, right?
Well, there's just jerks out there. And it's got nothing to do with a man-woman thing. But here's what I'm going to say. So I'm at the library.
Yeah.
Right? And so I feel like, gosh, I have a membership at my local town's library, which also has like a gym and a pool in it. It's like a community center.
Yeah, that's definitely a York region thing to do.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, exactly. Probably paid for by the people of Canada even. So I'm with my youngest daughter, who at the time is 9. She just turned 10 last week, but was 9 at the time. So beginning of February, now she's 10. She was 9. And her 9-year-old friend.
Right.
Okay. And I said, you know what? I got a great idea. Why don't we go swimming? So we'll go to the public pool. We'll go for public swimming.
Yeah.
And then you guys can go to the library for 45 minutes to an hour, and I'll have a workout.
Yeah. Right.
Hey, that sounds great, right? Library is a safe place for the kids.
Yeah.
Right? So I go there, and we go for a swim. Now, obviously, 9-year-olds, maybe there's a swim test they have to pass or something or whatever, but you don't drop your 9-year-olds off at a pool. Leave them.
Not without like
something like knowing that you're leaving them, like a program or something.
Yeah, there's got to be like supervision.
Yeah, that's right. Now there's tons of lifeguards there, but I mean, I wouldn't drop my kids off at a pool, so I went swimming with them.
Yeah.
Okay. And then when we were done and dried off, they went into the library to read some books, watch some videos, or do whatever kids do at a library, which is usually play video games. But anyway, which is kind of weird to me. But anyway, I go have a workout. So then I go and I change in my clothes and I have a workout and I'm working out and then I finish my workout and get dressed and I walk back to the library. And I like to go to the library too, Scott, because I like to read all the magazines,
Yeah.
weird magazines.
Oh, I mean, periodicals is a great reason. It's a great section.
No, but I like Adbusters.
Yeah,
Like, I would never buy it, but I like to read it every now and then for weird stuff.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Another one would be they have a lot of weird magazines, like far left. A lot of far left, not a lot of far right. So they have a lot of far left magazines at the library that you can get and read, and I really enjoy reading them. And then you have the Canadian Literary Review and stuff like that you don't come across. So I like to. So I walk in the library thinking, I'm going to spend half an hour flipping through the Canadian Literary Review while my kids finish up their video games or whatever the heck they're doing at the library. And I'm approached by the librarian.
Okay.
The manager of the library, who happens to be, I believe, to be a woman.
As is perhaps reflecting the demographics of librarians.
Yeah, there's a lot of female librarians, right?
Yeah.
So, but, nonetheless, she approaches me and she says, are these your children, sir? And I said, well, one of them is my children and the child, and the other one's under my care.
All right.
And she says, well, you know that the library has a very strict supervision policy of children. And I said, oh, really? What is that? And my daughter shouts out, Dad, you got to be 10 to be at the library. And she went and told the manager. And this is the manager. And I said, oh, thank you, Kiera. What is it? She said, sir, you're not allowed to leave your kids at the library unless they're 10 years old or older. And I said, oh, well, thank you very much for that. And she said, went on to explain why you're not allowed to leave your kids at the library, because they could be kidnapped or they could be abducted, or we're not responsible for your children. And I asked the question. I said, is the library a safe place for children?
Right.
And she responded like kind of cockeyed, like, well, of course it's a safe place for children. And I said, well, then I was in the gym down the hall. Is that not? No, that's not being that. You're in the community center, sir. That's in the community center, and the library is a separate part of the community center. And so you actually physically have to be in the community center with your children.
Now, can I interrupt you?
No, not yet.
Okay.
Now, I don't disagree with the policy.
Yeah.
I think that's fine. I think it's fine to have a policy of not having 9-year-olds in the library. I'm okay with that. What I'm talking about here is the condescending tone.
All right.
That was used. There isn't a poster on the wall that says kids under the age of 10 need to be supervised at all times in the library.
Is it on the back of your library card?
It's not on the back of the library card either.
Oh, man.
And it's not on the back of the kids' library cards.
Oh, well, that's a good place to put it, actually.
You know what? It's also something that's like, hey, everything's okay. Hey, gosh, just for next time, we're not here to babysit your kids. It's supposed to be 10 years old. I know nothing happened, but just letting you know, for next time. Oh, yeah, no problem. Not the condescending womansplaining that happened. And if it was inverted, that what happened to me is exactly the description of mansplaining, except it was a woman on a man. And I think the reality is, when I joke about womansplaining with you, I'm actually joking. I think it's just people going out of their way to feel superior and talk down to those that aren't aware of the appropriate behavior or the rules or the ideas or what people should know. And they use whatever position it is, whether it's woman on man, whether it's librarian on non-librarian, you know what I mean? Whatever it is, whatever podium they have.
You've had the waitersplain.
Waitersplain, yeah. Waitersplaining's another one. Yes.
Like, this is it. And I will cop when I was still in food service. No, sir. It's not made with bourbon.
Yes. Yeah. It's especially, another one would be sommelier-splaining.
Oh, God. I'm a half-trained cicerone, so I'm right there.
Okay. So you have these different things. And this idea of mansplaining or whatever it is, that's not men on woman. That's just asshole. Whoever it is.
Yeah, it's just we're all jerks.
Yes,
right?
And sometimes we get on our high horse and we want to tell someone else what's up, Scott.
Yeah. I think, are men more prone to it?
I think
in a conversation between a man and a woman, is there a greater tendency?
I would say that would be generalizing.
Generally,
and
yeah.
I don't know because I've never been mansplained to as a woman.
I have. Well, I've been mansplained.
You're not a woman?
No, I have been mansplained to.
By a man.
By a man.
That doesn't work. That's not mansplaining.
No, it was because it was on Twitter, and I think he just assumed I was a woman.
Oh, okay. So, but what I'm saying is like this idea that somehow this exists and men do it to women and they need to stop. No. Assholes do it.
Yeah.
People that are pompous pricks do it, or whatever the right word is to include all genders and people.
Yeah.
And it's just a problem. It's rather than passing judgment, but rather than judging and saying, gosh, this guy, I could totally see a librarian who your wife is, by the way.
Yes, that's where, because she does have to deal with people who think of it at the library as free babysitting.
Yes, exactly. I get it. So I could totally see them like, okay, we have rules about age here. We don't mind the 10-year-olds rolling in hot, but 9-year-olds no. Right. And I don't care if your kid's 2 weeks away from their birthday. The rules are the rules.
Yeah.
Right.
We drew the line because we had to draw a line and we're stuck with it.
Right. But then the lines exist and, they're there.
Yeah.
Right. So the line is there. Right. This is what it's for. And if there wasn't a line, then what would we have? We'd have nothing. We'd have chaos. Drop your kids off at the age of 6 then.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I agree with the idea of like, hey, this is it. What I'm referring to is not the rule or the library.
Yeah.
Or me missing out on it, and all that's cool. I don't think I did anything wrong. I think maybe I should have availed myself to the policies, possibly. But the way I was spoken to was so condescending and rude.
Right.
And it was particularly woman on man in its nature. I don't think she would have spoken to my wife like that.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
She would have danced around my wife a little bit more, but because it would have been a woman on a woman. You understand?
Yeah.
Like you're saying I'm a bad mother. Like it just wouldn't have happened like that.
Yeah.
I've seen these things happen. And so what I'm complaining about here, Scott, is not that womansplaining is a thing, but it's just that sometimes we use our positions, whether that be a man or being a boss or being a podcaster, and with his producer or whatever, to be dicks to one another and not treat one another with respect and not communicate correctly.
Yeah.
Is not that womansplaining is a thing, but it's just that sometimes we use our positions, whether that be a man or being a boss or being a podcaster and with his producer or whatever, to be dicks to one another and not treat one another with respect and not communicate correctly.
Yeah.
Would you agree?
I think that every day, an average person is going to be selfish, rude, or ignorant. One of those at least one time each day. And whether that's on purpose or just the human condition, it's something we have to work on.
If you don't think that you have malevolence in you, Scott, or if I don't think that I don't have malevolence in me and that it doesn't leak out all over the place all the time, we're not being realistic. We're being completely and totally naive to how the world works.
Oh, yeah.
All of us are 50% malevolence and 50% benevolence.
Mm-hmm.
And what we're trying to do, I believe good people are trying to reduce their malevolence and increase their benevolence as much as possible.
Yeah.
And it leaks out all over the place. And sometimes the librarian's having a bad day. And she decides to take it out on the asshole who dropped his kids off for babysitting.
Yet another idiot dad.
Yeah, this idiot dad. He doesn't know the rules. I got to explain it out to him.
Just can't deal with this.
Yeah, and so, you know what? I'm not actually mad at her. I think she's probably a great librarian. Who knows?
Yeah.
Maybe she had a bad day. Maybe that was the 6th dad who dropped his kids off at the library.
Wait, is it Stouffville or Uxbridge you're talking about?
Stouffville.
Okay, so Stouffville, I've met 2 of them. The new one and the one who hosts.
Oh, now I'm in trouble.
Well, this is it. I will say that the Stouffville Library, my connection to them is they run a regular program on the Stouffville community radio station, and I kind of kept bumping into them because their time slot was after the morning show.
So I'll give you this. I think that community center is wonderful.
Yeah.
and that person may have had a bad day or whatever. But as soon as that happened to me, I thought to myself, this is mansplaining in reverse.
Yeah.
You understand what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I just felt like I was the condescending nature of it, the challenging. I have 4 children. I know how to be a dad. In fact, I rolled the dice and it worked.
Yeah.
I got my workout in, and you watched my kids.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I don't get the whole thrust on mansplaining. It's not a thing.
Well, it's something, but it's a bigger something.
Yeah, I know. It's just part of people who are assholes.
Yeah,
And the way they behave.
Like, to totally derail this, man spreading, right? That's just a guy who's using too much of the bus.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. They're just spreading out on the bus.
Yeah. I'm like, yeah, there are also people who think their backpack deserves a chair. Or, oh God, parent spreaders.
What's up with what do you mean, like multiple kids? You got to give them a break.
No, I'm talking about just the sport utility stroller and all the gear just spread over everything.
Yeah, you know what? It's funny because men will display dominance by taking up space.
Yes.
That's what you're referring to. Women will create chaos by taking up space. No, but there's a difference between and maybe it's the same because I have 4 kids, so I know what it's like to kind of move around on public transport with 4 kids.
Yeah.
But there's a thing that men do where they'll walk into a bar and they'll roll up to the bar and they'll put their wallet here and their keys there and they'll sit back and this is my area of influence now. Yes, I know what you're talking about, and it's kind of different. I don't. You know what's interesting? Do men do this splaining thing more than women? I would say no. I would say it's not a uniquely male phenomenon. It doesn't have anything to do with high levels of disagreeableness. I think what it is that it's easier. It's more. You're more likely to claim victimhood in the mansplaining environment than a man would be. He's going to more likely find it funny. Like a woman's more likely to be insulted, whereas a man's more likely to find it funny. Does that make sense? I thought it was funny.
Yeah.
I'm not offended by it. I just thought it was funny. I thought, this is mansplaining, but you're a woman. And I almost told her this in the middle of the conversation. That's how I think she actually caught the smirk on my face, Scott.
Yeah.
You understand what I mean? You're mansplaining me. This is what they're talking about. Except that I'm a man and you're a woman. And so it's womansplaining. I don't think men are more. I think actually, I would say more than anything, women are more prone than men to doing it. Because it's a passive-aggressive type of attack. You understand what I mean?
Yeah, like the passive-aggressive combat move. Yeah.
So, no, women are more prone to passive-aggressive. It's like disagreeableness. Men are more disagreeable than women.
Yeah.
Women are more agreeable than men on average, but there's tons of disagreeable women and tons of agreeable men. So, I think mansplaining or splaining, let's call it, is a form of passive-aggressive release.
Yeah.
Let me explain to you how it works.
I see. I don't know. Like when I think about when women talk to me about mansplaining,
Are they damaged?
I don't know if they're damaged, but it's just this. Oh yeah, there is sort of I don't know a male ego aspect to it where it's like, oh no, I'll stop and explain it to you, and I'm like, okay, I've never had someone really go too in depth explaining anything to me.
I don't think you're listening well enough, Scott, because I explain shit to you all the time. But no, I mean, I understand what you're saying. I just think it's just a bullshit victim button people want to push when they encounter an asshole and they want to explain it away to some gender dynamic.
I don't know if you're in a marginalized group, it's hard to tell what's asshole behavior and what's part of
it's very
the
difficult.
oppression.
Absolutely. But the question is, who is a marginalized group?
Right.
So women are not a coherent interest group.
Yeah, no. It's fun to watch that break down, isn't it?
Women are the least coherent of all the labeled interest groups. They're the least coherent. So the idea that somebody that women. Oh, now we're going into dangerous.
This could get bad for us. This could be bad.
Why? I'm not threatened.
All right.
No, but here. So the idea that somehow there's this this idea that people come up and explain something to you, or tell you what's up, or tell you how things work, just so that right? This is what we're talking about. You don't know how it works, so I'm going to explain it to you. Ready? You can't drop your kids off at the library, this kind of shit. That comes from a passive-aggressive place. Are you saying that men are just benevolently walking up to women and saying, I'd like to explain to you how the world works, because you're a little damsel in distress? Do you think that's what's happening?
There are days when I think it could be the case that it's that.
Is that what it is? Because I want to know what it is. Because I think it's a form of passive aggressiveness.
I've got another friend who, every time they mention that they are moving offices, they're an artist, an illustrator, and every time I do this callback to this joke she and I had, where it's like, and I just say, hey, remember, monitor goes in the graphics card. Because every time she moves, she forgets the first thing.
Right.
And I'm like, and no, she had to straighten me out on that. It's like, no, this is past joke now.
Right. So it's not funny. That's not mansplaining, though.
It can feel like that, I'm sure.
No, do you get the call every time her computer doesn't work?
No, it's just every time.
Or you get called to help her move?
I've helped her move once.
Right, so clearly when you helped her move, something went wrong with her monitor and you had to fix it, right?
Yeah, it was literally like, oh yeah.
That's not mansplaining. That's like making sure that the problem doesn't happen again. Sorry, Scott. Bad example. Nah, dude, mansplaining's not a thing. It's a made-up thing. It's not real. It doesn't exist. And if it does, then there's woman-splaining on man, and there's woman-splaining on woman, and there's mansplaining on other men, and there's mansplaining on women. And because what I don't understand is mansplaining like the damsel in distress trying to help her when your help is not wanted? Or is it like a passive-aggressive condescension? Which one is it? Or is it both?
I don't get to choose how the other person reacts.
Do damsels not want to be helped when they're in distress? I mean, I don't know what it is. Which one is it? Is helping a damsel in distress, is that condescending?
I think helping people's a little bit like being a vampire. You have to be invited first.
Yeah, no, I'm agree with you. I'll agree with you on that.
Yeah.
But what I'm wondering is, so what I felt when I was woman-splained is that was condescension, and it could have been done in a much more polite way, but I didn't care because I just laughed about it.
Yeah.
Right? I just thought it was funny. Oh, you think you're superior to me, and now you're going to tell me what's up. This is funny. Okay. Keep it to yourself, Michael. Keep it to yourself. Don't tell her she's woman-splaining you. Don't do it. Don't do it.
Just nod your way through the...
I didn't do it.
Nod your way through the policy discussion and then take your kid home.
Yeah, and then take your licks from the librarian because she's in charge in the library. Right?
Some days you just gotta smile and nod through the authority figure, right?
Well, I have a rule with I have like daddy's rules for power that I go over with my kids. So it's kind of based on Robert Greene's, but it's not so, it's not so ridiculous as Robert Greene's. But it's like one of them is pay homage to the king.
Yeah.
That's one of my rules. So when you're in an environment where there's a king or a queen, pay the homage because you're not going to win. Like if I go and get into woman-splaining with the librarian, what upside is there for me? Other than ego validation.
Yeah.
Nothing, right?
The possibility of diverting this into an interesting chat and disarming the whole situation, right? That's not what's going to happen. No, it's not.
No. Best to just be woman-splained, take your licks.
Never joke with cops or border control agents.
Exactly. Pay homage to the king. Exactly. Always pay homage to the king. When you're in an environment where you're in a court and there's a king, pay homage to the king. Don't get into it because you never win.
Yep.
You never win. Right? So when you're in the library, librarian's the king. Pay her the homage she deserves, or the homage she deserves. It's their court. Thanks for listening, folks, to the Get a Grip on Life podcast. If we ever put this one out, woman-splaining. I'm going to name it that, too, just to stick it to everybody. Scott and Michael discuss woman-splaining. You got woman-splained, boy? Mm-hmm. It's condescending. But in all things, I think it's all more about being a jerk. So stop being a jerk. Stop being a bitch. Stop being condescending. That's what we want. Folks, if you want to start your own podcast and tell me to shut up on the air, you can go to getagripstudios.com. That's getagripstudios.com. Hey, Scott's ready to rock. He's sitting behind the chair. He can produce your show. He produces my shows. He's the man. Scott, thanks for chatting. You, thanks for listening.